So first off, we're going to start with the weapons. And if you can get your hands on the Hand of Malenia, then I'd highly do so. That waterfowl dance is highly good for a certain talisman, and we'll get to it. Secondly, you could go with the Rivers of Blood +9. I think its skill is quite unique and gives you a good amount of range with some decent successive attacks. You could even do a Cestus or a Claw build if you'd really like. Anything with successive attacks can work in this. Next, you're going to want the Blasphemous Blade. This is going to give you HP restored upon defeating an enemy, and it's going to give you about 7%. You can throw that on your back. For the gear that I'm just using Hoslow's armor. I just think it looks cool. That's pretty much the only reason. So here we have the Taker's cameo. This is going to be one of the main talismans you're going to use. It's going to restore HP upon defeating an enemy and give you roughly 5% HP back, and that'll stack with the Blasphemous Blade. You can acquire this one by doing Tannis' side quest, but be very careful. Finish her side quest before you beat Praetor Rykard. Otherwise, you can lock yourself out of getting these items. I'm warning you now. Up next, we got the Godskin Swaddling Cloth. This is successive attacks will restore your HP. That's going to be really good with your Hand of Malenia or your Rivers of Blood. Considering you're doing successive attacks, every 3 or 4 hits is going to give you roughly 3% of your health back. You can get the Godskin Swaddling Cloth here in this location. Now, I like to use the Rotten Winged Sword insignia. This is going to help you during bosses. You can switch out the Taker's cameo and some of the other items because you're not going to be needing them specifically for a boss fight. So this will just give you a little bit more of an edge during that time. You can get the Rotten Winged insignia by doing Millicent's questline. The Ancestral Spirit's Horn. Now this is a really good one for you. It restores FP upon defeating enemies, allowing you to use their skill more often. Using that skill more often and then getting the kill will allow you to get more healing. And with that, more attacks, more healing, yada yada, keep it going. Who needs flasks? Up next, we got the Shard of Alexander. This is greatly going to boost the attack power of your skills. I'd highly suggest if you're going to go with anything that's going to utilize skills specifically, put the Shard of Alexander on or the Warrior Jar Shard. It's going to be highly beneficial. You can get this one by doing the Iron Alexander side quest. Now this is one you can put into the build, but you don't necessarily need to. It's the Assassin's Crimson Dagger. Critical hits will restore HP. This is either going to be the front stab or the back stab. That's going to be your critical hit. It does alright. It'll probably give back another 3 or 4% as well on top of it. So if you're really good at getting all the back stabs, then go for it. And you can get the Assassin's Crimson Dagger in this location. For the Flask of Wondrous Physique, I like to use the Thorny Crack tier. It's going to temporarily boost successive attack power. Considering that's what you're going to be using, you know, might as well get yourself some more attack power. So for the second part of the flask, you're going to want the Crimson Whirl tier. This is going to give you some HP back when you get hit, but it is only going to be for magical damage. Now, this is going to be the most beneficial part of the build, is the Rykard's Great Rune. You're basically going to want to keep that active most of the time. Use a Rune Arc, especially when you're exploring. It's going to restore HP upon attacking enemies. It's only going to happen when you actually defeat the enemy. It will say that in the actual details. I just don't want to show you any spoilers. This will give you about 12% of your health back per kill. Now, I'm going to show you a test. So as you can see, you get quite a bit of healing, and this doesn't even have the Taker's cameo on it. As I said, you can really mess up getting that talisman, and I did it twice on this character and had to make a third one just to get it. So, make sure you do that one correctly. Now for the stats, you can pretty much pump that vigor up as much as you want. I don't really care. It's all about having that health and getting it back as fast as possible. For mind and endurance, you can pretty much pump that up for as much as you feel. If you need a little bit more FP, then go for it. If you need some more endurance to equip some better gear, hey, pump that instead. Now, you might end up pumping strength depending on your weapon, but since what I went for is a dex weapon, I pumped up dex. Didn't need any intelligence, Now I pumped Faith up to 25 just to use those 2 incantations. That is just to give myself a little bit more attack power during boss fights, and that's pretty much the only reason. Arcane is at 20 for the Rivers of Blood weapon. That can be changed. You can put 10 points into whatever else, Vigor, Mind, Endurance, your choice. So it was a little hard to get the exact numbers for the health gain while trying to fight a giant group, because you'd end up getting hit opening the menu as you're not attacking. I won't be able to show you the exact numbers, but you can see that the health gain is quite intense. And I can get to a pretty rough estimate of the percentages that you're going to be gaining with full item build. Alright, now up we're going to do a little bit of math. The Taker's Cameo is going to give you 5% health return. The God Swaddling Cloth will give you roughly 3 to 4% health return. Adding that onto the other, you're going to have around 8%. With the Blasphemous Blade, you're going to get another 7% increase, adding that up to 15%. And then, with Rykard's Great Rune, that'll give you another 12%, increasing it to roughly a 27%. So you can have around a 25 to 27% health gain per enemy kill with a full build like this. You can also add in the critical hits to give you HP, and that'll give you the 28% that you want as well. So as you can see, for more boss enemies, it's going to be a lot harder to do this build. You're not going to get that healing until the actual enemy dies, so you're going to have to actually try and use your flasks. But when you're traversing the world, it's utilized really well. You can keep that health going, you can get some more FP, and you can just keep going and going and going. You don't have to stop at a grace and refill up. There becomes almost no point in using flasks then for this build, as long as you're just exploring and not doing boss fights. The last thing to note is to be careful, because you can still die. Let me know what you think of this build in the comments below, and anything that you found that could add to it.